This one is my own personal pick of the week. And the reason for that is that this is just a really solid Euro game. It's in the top 100 on Board Game Geek, so a lot of people do love this one. And if you are getting a deluxe version of a game, it's always nice to know that the game itself is really solid. So I think you can have a lot of confidence backing this one if you are a fan of Euro games, and if this one looks interesting to you even after I explain it, which I will go ahead and do now. This is a game that uses dice worker placement as its core mechanism, which is personally one of my favorite types of worker placement. But the way this game works is that your workers are always out on the board, and when it comes to your turn, you'll have the choice to move one of your workers clockwise a certain amount of movement points, and then you're going to be taking the action of the location that you land on. But something that's really neat about this board and the way that you set up the game is that the board itself does have a bunch of different regions printed on it, and you're always going to have 8 regions in every game that you play. But the game also offers a whole bunch of smaller boards that you can swap in and out and just mix and match however you want within a game in order to change up some of those regions and add a little bit more variety and variability from game to game. But there are some other factors that do add a bit of variability as well, because at the start of the game, you're going to be drawing 4 different resource tokens. You're going to be choosing 2 of those, and whichever 2 you choose are going to dictate what resources you start with, where your dice are going to start out on the main board, and any additional bonuses that you might get. And once the game's all set up, it's going to be playing over a series of rounds that have a variable length depending on the player's actions, which I will come back to in a bit here. But players are going to be essentially taking turns performing an action by moving one of their workers clockwise 1 to 3 spaces to a new region on the board. And once they land on a location, they have a few different options. They could either just gain money, which can help them later in the game, or they can use the temple space located at that region in order to lock in their die, but it's also going to move them up one of the various tracks that are located on the board. And moving up those tracks will grant you some special bonuses, and if you're the first to get to the top, you'll get some additional bonuses and victory points. But locking in your die in order to perform this action means that your die is stuck at that location and you won't be able to move it on any future turns until you unlock that die. And there are a few different ways that you can do this, but the 2 main ways are by paying to unlock it, or by sacrificing an entire turn in order to unlock all of your dice. So if you are choosing that option, you might want to lock a few before you decide to skip one of your turns. But the most interesting option a player has when landing on a location is to perform the action that that location provides, because each location is going to be offering a completely different action that players can take advantage of. And these can do all sorts of different things, like grant you victory points, resources, or different bonuses. But they can also grant you some secondary actions like moving you up different tracks or allowing you to place one of these tiles in the pyramid located at the center of the board. But one important bonus that these different locations can provide is to actually level up your dice workers. And each of your workers are going to be displaying a number of pips, and that's always going to be the same value until you go to level up that die. And when you do that, you're going to be increasing its pip by 1. And that's important to do, especially earlier in the game, because there's a couple ways to increase the power of your actions. One is by using a die that has more pips on it, and the other is by having more dice in that region when you go to perform that action. And of course, if you're able to make both of these happen at the same time, then you are in a really great position. And players are going to be taking turns performing their actions just like this until the end of the round is triggered, which is done by using a moving track that's going to move forward anytime the turn gets back to the starting player, or anytime that a player upgrades their die. Once that track reaches the end, it's going to trigger the end of the round, and that's going to trigger the end of round scoring, where players are going to be gaining victory points for everything that they accomplished so far. But players will also have to feed their workers, and of course you will be penalized if you don't have enough resources in order to do so. And the game plays for 3 rounds, and the player with the most victory points at the end of the 3rd round wins the game. And this Deluxe Master Set will be offering all previous content, including any promos and exclusive content, but it's also going to be adding a lot more as well. There's going to be a double-sided board with upgraded artwork. There's also going to be upgraded components for almost every single component in the game. It's going to be adding a 5th player expansion, which was not offered in the original game. And it's also going to be offering you a storage solution to fit all of this content in a single box. And for those of us that do already own this game, I'm happy to say that you don't have to rebuy all your content over again, because they will be offering an upgrade pack as well, which is always a nice thing to see. So if you are interested in this one, you can go ahead and check it out. I do have links to the campaign in the description below, and they do have the preview page up, so I'll just link directly to that so you can check it out even if it hasn't launched yet.